Join UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the UnitedWeStart Radio Roundtable. My name is Matt Navarro. It is Saturday, September 14, 2019. This show is where we talk about all the issues of the day and how it affects our lives and maybe solutions to problems that we face in this global situation called the New World Order. Today we have Detlef in Switzerland producing for us. We have Michael and Alan in Ireland. Gentlemen, let's go around the table and introduce yourselves, please. Michael, we'll start with you.
Yeah, my name is Michael, and I have a show every last Tuesday in the month. I talk about the more spiritual aspects and the background of the political events that happen and the structures that determine our world situation, our consciousness, and spiritual, religious things which go and which have a connection to those world events. And that's basically what I do in my shows.
Thanks, Michael. Detlef, let's get a quick introduction, please.
Yeah, thank you. It's Detlef here from Switzerland, Wake News Radio, Wake News TV. I'm also producing the show today, as usually. We do have the German-speaking shows, but we also love to have the English-speaking part, like here in the UnitedWeStart Roundtable, because then we can also internationally exchange our information and give advice or give information hints and give our perspectives to what's happening in the world. Currently, we are, just for your information, we are in the moving process, so the studio is half there and half not there. So, parts of the studios has already moved and other parts are here, and I'm still at the old place. So it's not yet perfect, but we're working on it. And also we got sick, over the last 2 weeks. All people involved in this moving process are sort of sick. We'll talk about this a little later. But I think it's going to be an interesting show. Thank you.
Thanks, Detlef. Yeah, we appreciate you producing the show for us. Makes our job a whole lot easier as host. And I hope you get better soon. Alan over there from Ireland. Quick introduction, please.
Cheers, Matt. I'll see you have myself, Alan James, from used to be OIM Radio. Now I've set up my own show called Circle of White Light Radio, which can be found on circleofwhitelight.com. Broadcasting from 7 to 9 every Sunday GMT time. That's Irish UK time. And I cover everything. I'm trying to focus now on solutions and higher energy subjects as much as I can. I think we've done enough of talking about the dangers of vaccines and Wi-Fi and 5G and all the stuff that's bad for you. I think we know what it is now. We know what the problem is. What we want to try to do is focus on solutions. And that's what I'm trying to do in the show, trying to focus on solutions and look for solutions rather than just complain about the problems. So that's really a Circle of White Light. And I'm glad to be around. I'm happy to speak to you guys. Another month flying by. There you go. I was told as well that time is actually speeding up, folks. So you're not thinking that you're going mad, and it's not all about, as Einstein said, being relative. I know time is relative, but we are actually speeding up, and there's a reason why you are speeding up, because apparently you are getting closer to the horizon. I think it's called the New Horizon. Maybe the East and West Gate, which I heard people talking about. So maybe we'll touch base on that later on.
All right. Hey, thanks, Alan. Look forward to hearing more about this changes that are coming. My name is Matt Navarro. My website is nwodor.com, nwodor.com. My podcast is the New Old Odor Report, though I have been taking a break from the show so that I can pursue musical interests, because that takes time and is a lot more fun than focusing on all the nasty stuff going on in the world. But I agree with Alan on my shows. If you hop on over to my website, go to the podcast archive page, we not only discuss what the problems are in the world with the guests I bring on, but also solutions. So the way I approach the show is identify the problem, discuss what it is, and then discuss solutions by all these world experts. And you'll find that in the podcast archives. It's a great library of knowledge. The knowledge never gets old. So take advantage of that. I've got people like Dr. Cass Ingram, Dr. Rima Lebeau from talking about how to stay healthy and the things that cause you to become ill. Michael Shaw talking about Agenda 21 and how that is a depopulation agenda. Lots of good information up there. Hop on over to nwodor.com. And I agree with you, Alan, that there seems to be the notion that time is speeding up. Art Bell, late night broadcaster here in America, called it the quickening. And it seems like time is going by faster. I know, we see it, the hands of the clock move around and around at a synchronized way, but yeah, it seems like time's going faster. But when we're getting ready for the show here, we're talking about, and it was kind of fascinating to me, we're talking about immigration and how that's occurring here in the United States unfettered, and how it is occurring in Europe unfettered, and how it affects our societies. And we don't get to see it. The folks in America don't hear about news of how illegal immigration, let's put it that way, illegal immigration is destroying the culture and the societies in Europe. So maybe we can focus on that. Who wants to start?
I would just jump in on that as a caveat before we get stuck into this subject matter. The extreme left are welcoming in people from abroad. Now, if you are an immigrant coming in and you are in a war-torn country and you need help, that's one thing. But if you are just coming over here just to kind of get into the country to screw the system, that's something else. But the trouble is with the extreme left, unfortunately, they want to bring everybody in. And the problem is we have here in Ireland is that we have we've got 10,000 people who are homeless at the moment in Ireland. That's the figures at the moment. And yet, instead of trying fixing the problem here first, regarding the homeless, they want to bring more people in from abroad. Now, we do know the New World Order thing about Albert Pike and the whole idea of the late 1800s when he turned around and he said there's going to be 3 wars and the third war will be against Christians and Muslims. And Europe, and not just Ireland, but all across Europe, were getting this influx of immigrants coming in. And that's planned. That has been planned for a long time. So let's not pretend that this is a new thing. It was already planned. This is one of their plans, to water down the nationalities and obviously cause chaos and mayhem. And that's what's happening, especially in countries. I mean, Ireland is bad, but countries in the likes of Sweden are just, I think 1 in 10 women have been raped. I think that's the statistics as far as I can remember reading about it. 1 in 10 women being raped. And I've seen video footage of women who don't, there might be an immigrant trying to get them to do something. And when they say no, I seen this guy just slap the woman in the face for no reason other than she didn't do what she was told, because maybe it's a religious thing. I don't know. So it is happening over here. So you will, the far left will be on the attack because they want to bring everybody in, but they don't see and they don't know what we know of what's going on. And that's the problem. they don't know what's going on. They don't know what the master plan is, and they think they're being human and being kind by inviting these people in, but they don't really know that they're going to be shot in the foot by this. Detlev, if you want to jump in and tell us what you're experiencing over there in Switzerland.
Yes, thank you, Alan. Well, basically, it is not in Switzerland alone. It's in the whole German-speaking area, so Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, and other parts in Europe, like France and Italy and Spain and what have you. It's a lie, a continuous lie since 2015, which is proposed to us and propagandized to us every day, that there are refugees out of countries where wars are taking place. Well, obviously there are wars around, but they mostly are, initiated by the West, by the NATO countries, because they have their interests in various countries, especially in Africa and in the Middle East. So from there, lots of people want to go away, but it's not. Because if you look at the so-called refugees which are coming to us, they do not look starved. They do not look like they have been shot or, body parts missing or anything like that. They are all well-bred, all well-fed, all well-dressed, and they have got all, their mobile phones of high quality. So then you ask yourself, and there's most of them are men. There are a few women, there are a few children underage, and there are, a few old people possibly. But if you look at it in terms of percentage, it's 90 to 10. So 90 healthy men aging from, let's say, 18 to 25. Or let's say 29 or 30. It's hard to say because it's a different race, which I cannot judge the age just by that. But it's this kind of men you would expect would have to go to the military, or went to the military, or are in the military. That's how they look like. Strong bodies and so forth. So you are asking yourself, well, they are good looking, they are well fed, they reject anything like food or drinks, like water and so forth, offered to them when they arrive into the country. They throw this away. And, when they talk to the local social institutions where they have to register in order to get money and so forth or support, they're not interested in food or health care necessarily. They are asking for, well, when do I get my house? And when do I get my car? And when do I get my couple of thousands euros present? So they're coming with ideas which have nothing to do with being poor, coming from a country, war a country, and you are fleeing for your life, and you are glad that you are out of the fighting. That's not the case. They're coming here because they have been promised to live like kings. If you get 1,000 euros in Africa somewhere, you are a king.
Yeah.
They don't know that 1,000 euros over here is worth nothing, right? But they are coming here with the idea, okay, I just have to go to Europe and then I become a sort of a millionaire, sort of.
Yeah.
In their imagination. And most of them who are coming are not very intelligent. They are not very smart. They are not really thinking through. They don't have any idea about the situation over here. And they think, let's say, most probably most of them are Muslims. So they have the idea, if there's a woman, and mostly there are a lot of blonde women as well over here, and if they have a short skirt or something, that they are, they can take them just like that.
Yeah.
So it's I don't want to get too much into detail. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. The trouble is that these mixing of cultures is not working.
Yeah.
The mixture, that's really the problem, is that we have the Western side, we have a different culture on things, and their culture is different to, the way they perceive women is different to the way we would perceive women in the Western culture. Women have more independence. Maybe their culture, they're more going back to the Dark Ages. And unfortunately, when you bring the men over from that kind of culture and they see the women being very independent and doing what they do, they kind of obviously upsets them, because they're so used to being told by their religion that no, women shouldn't act like that. And they feel maybe that they're doing justice by going up and trying to intervene and telling women that no, you shouldn't be dressing like that. It's really none of their business, but this is what's going on.
The whole idea is to dilute our cultures and to destroy the identity of our individual nations. That's the whole idea. We see that here in America. It's estimated we have 20 to 30 million illegal aliens, and like the ones in Europe, they don't go out of the way to assimilate. They aren't trying to learn English. Now we're having presidential candidates pandering to the illegal alien vote. Yes, they can vote here in some states. I'll explain later. But there's pandering to the illegal alien vote by speaking Spanish on these presidential debates. The whole idea that these people aren't assimilating is so that they destroy the indigenous culture, so you have no national identity. And when you don't have a identity like that, you cannot rally around a cause, because you don't know who you are. You don't know who what your past is. Here in America, they're trying to erase our past. But these legal aliens who aren't assimilating, I run into them, and they're some of the most arrogant human beings you can run into, because they know they're above the law. They know that if they commit a crime, they're not going to be deported because of these sanctuary cities or sanctuary laws or sanctuary states where illegal aliens get more rights than legal Americans. And it's done nothing but divide the country, and you get these radical leftists that say we gotta let them in. We shouldn't have borders. I was having a conversation with a lady 2 nights ago, or actually a couple of them, and they're Democrats, and I asked them, well, and they hate Trump. The Democrats, they hate Trump. They don't know why they hate Trump, but here's an example how stupid these people are. I asked them, well, do you lock your doors at night? And of course they say, yeah. Well, why do you lock your doors? Because I don't want somebody coming in and taking my things. So why? And so I said, well, that makes you a racist. And she goes, no. I said, yes, because when the Democrats or the leftists tell us that we cannot build a wall because building a wall to keep out illegal immigrants is racist, locking your door, and having people come into the front door is racist. And that's how they spin these things. And I was asking one of them, well, why do you hate Trump? Well, he just, I hate him. Why? Give me a specific example. And she could not. She's just parroting what she's been taught without questioning why she thinks that way. And so when you get stupid people like that, who don't know why they think the way they do, having 30 million illegal aliens in the country, well, that's a good thing. We're being humanitarian. No, they're destroying the country.
Garbage in, garbage out. That's the trouble with these people. When you question, their motives or question their logic, a lot of the time the argument falls flat because they're just repeating what they're being told. They're repeaters. That's all they are. They're repeaters and followers.
Yes.
And that's all they do. And we've had it over here in Ireland quite a lot regarding that. There's a lot of people who are trying to educate people as to what's going down. And we have the amount of attacks. And the trouble is with the extreme left, the far left, or whatever you want to call it, is that they don't seem to have the ability to even allow somebody else to have a difference of opinion. It just seems to be, if you don't agree with me, then that's it. It's hate speech. And you think, no, we're just having a difference of opinion. It's not hate speech. And anyway, hate speech to one person is free speech to another person. So Indeed. The whole idea of this, we have to clamp down the hate speech, you think, well, hang on a minute. Who defines hate speach? To me, you might
Google.
say... Yeah, well, Google, yeah. To me, people have a right to say what they say. I mightn't agree with what they say, but they have a right to say it. I'm not going to call it hate speech. I'm just going to say, well, that's their opinion. Doesn't mean they're right. But it seems now that with all these kind of snowflakes out there, everybody gets offended. It's just unbelievable. And you think, grow up. This never happened when I was in my younger days. We just got on with it. If somebody insulted you, you could insult them back if you wanted to. But now people are just getting so offended with everything that's been said. And obviously we call them snowflakes. I don't know what they're called in America or what they're called in Europe. Yeah. And this is it. And when you go to some of these from the far left and you say, well, look, this is my opinion on, they say, we disagree with you. We're going to attack you because we don't like what you say. And you think, well, how stupid is that? Just because I have a difference of opinion, you want to attack me? It just doesn't make sense.
It's crazy, and it's crazy that we even tolerate it. But look, it's going on here in the United States as well. Okay, along with the immigration, this attack on speech is international. And I hope our audience recognizes that. Okay, wake up to the fact that it's international. This is going on so that we police ourselves, just like in 1984 from Orwell. We police ourselves into correct speech versus free speech. Because if you self-censor, they don't have to censor you. But, they censor you anyway. If you're Google, Apple, or any of the Twitters, the Facebooks of the world, they do censor. But, if we censor ourselves, less for them to worry about. And that's what they want, so that you're dumb and live in this victimized mentality where, everything everybody says is offensive to you. So you shall, shout them down by calling them racist or gay, or they're homophobes or some other phobes, right?
Yeah, totally. And Michael, what's your take on it?
You're on mute, Michael, if we can't hear you.
Come in, Michael.
Yep, I'm here. There was an interruption, unfortunately. But basically, as you know, I have a humanist point of view towards the issues. But unfortunately, the cabal, which we have to talk about, it is organizing it to create chaos. That is the real reason. But they create all this distress with immigration and with these exchange of population that's going on. So basically, the one thing I don't understand, that people that commit crimes or typically felonies, they should be thrown out, because that I don't understand why they keep these people here. Not for somebody that that commits misdemeanors or something like this, but somebody that commits a felony. That for me is the borderline on which people have to be deported. Because I can understand maybe 5% of the people that come over here deserve the term refugee. There is 5% here that I think from a humanitarian point of view, one should help and assist. And I think every decent human being would agree. But 95 or 90% of those people that come are organized to create chaos over here. And there is even warriors that went to certain kind of training that came over here that the cabal can use, given a sign of any political distress or some political agenda. They can say, now you have to go get your weapon and now create chaos in the society. And that's something we have to be afraid of. And I think that we have to look at the cabal, what they're doing in the background, because they're our enemies. They fight the common laws, the common virtues and the laws of the rights of the people. They want to rule and abuse and to plunder us, and they take all kind of means to do so. And also what they do, they misuse this humanist approach towards something, because even the Satan himself, when he says, okay, come, follow me, we go to hell, I mean, nobody would come. But if he says, oh, I lead you to paradise, you come along, and then somebody would follow. So the same thing here. They say, some extreme left says, we have to use that humanistic approach. That is good in a sense, but not in an abusive sense. And that's what I'm criticizing.
Yeah, I think, I think we have to apply common law to everything and to everybody. If they're coming over and they're getting on with things and they're not harming anybody, they're not hurting anybody, and they're not stealing and they're not damaging, they're not robbing and all that kind of stuff, then okay, we can do the human side of that. That's fine. But the problem is, as you said, Michael, if they're coming over here to screw the system and to rob and to, maybe kill, sometimes some of them have gone out with knives and attacked people, then they should be sent back home to where they come from, because that should not be tolerated. Why it doesn't, they don't do it, I don't know myself. But I tell you what will possibly need to happen, and maybe it will. Everything's great until a family member of the politicians are affected. And as soon as a family member of one of the main politicians is affected, then something will be done about it.
I'm not so sure about that.
I disagree as well, because this has happened over here. One of the offices in the EU, a German guy here from Freiburg, which is not too far from Basel, his daughter was not only sexually assaulted, but also killed by an African or Middle East guy. And he even said, that's not so, we have to help the poor people, the refugees, and so on. The family continued to propagandize the refugee influx. So even his own daughter.
He sold his soul. He sold the soul. You're
right, Matt. He sold the soul. There's no way on earth, if you had a child, like I'm a dad, you're a dad, Detlev, and I don't know whether Michael's a dad, but you're a dad, and anything happens to your child, then there's no way you're going to turn around and say that. And people might say, "Oh, well, you have to turn the other cheek." No, I disagree with that totally. You don't turn the other cheek, but you can deal with the problem, and because they will, if they've done it to one person, they'll do it to another.
I disagree with you on one thing, Alan, is that in America we've seen where deportation doesn't work, like that. Guy who killed Kate Steinle in San Francisco, he was deported 5 times and he still got back in. I think if they should be convicted of their crime, serve their sentence. Once they serve their sentence, then deported. Okay, not just deport them because they'll come right back in because our border is so porous right now.
But the trouble is, the taxpayer is paying for their incarceration.
Well, so I'd rather taxpayer pay for somebody who's committed felonies. Like here in some states where these illegal aliens rape people. You look at all over America, and they'll let them go. They'll let them out. Whereas if you were an American citizen, you'd go to jail. Well, put them in jail. I'm willing to pay my tax dollar to keep them in jail so that they don't go out and reoffend. Because I like to think that our people in America can be safe from these kinds of predators.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The way things are at the moment, maybe it's time to speak about the Well, I said the new horizon, but I meant to say the event horizon, because there are a lot of changes that are taking place on the planet at the moment, and more people are feeling it. More and more people are getting sick. I'm seeing that over here anyway. People are getting sick, and people are passing over. They're dying and they're moving over. And there is a good YouTube site there called Yellow Rose of Texas, if you haven't seen it. And she does great information on that page, but there's other sites as well out there. And they talk about the event horizon, which is the whole vortex. We're speeding up because the vortex is getting smaller and smaller. And I'm not an expert on the event horizon, but I was just looking up as to a definition of it. And it's got to do with the event horizon is the boundary defining the region of space around the black hole from which nothing, not even light, can escape. So if we are moving towards an event horizon where we're going to go in through a black hole, and something happens on the planet regarding human beings and energy, well, I don't know, but we know the planet has been reset before. We know it's been done 5 times. Ancient archaeology, they found artifacts from different eras, different thousands of years ago, Atlantis and all that kind of stuff. So Lemuria. So we know that we've been here before, and the architecture kind of tells us that. Now this is apparently the 6th time that we're on the planet, and again we're doing the same thing. So we're not learning. We're not learning to take care of the planet, take care of ourselves, and be kind to ourselves. So maybe that reset needs to take place again. I don't know. What do you think, chaps?
First off, I don't think we're going into a black hole. And if we are, then none of this matters. We're not near a black hole that I'm aware of or ever heard that we're near. So that's not an issue from my perspective. But that, so we just set that aside. But as far for the reset, yes, there is evidence that we've had past civilizations and they've been wiped out and then we reset again. That's why we probably don't learn. Now, there's the ancient astronaut theory where it says that, extraterrestrials have populated the planet by genetically manipulating the indigenous species to create what we perceive ourselves to be as human, and then they give us these little fairy tales saying, yes, God created man in like 6 days, or the planet in 6 days, and man in 1, and they tell us these fairy tales, and so you could look at the evidence, the archaeological evidence, and see, like Alan describes, a reset, but maybe it's a deliberate reset. Like a college kid might have an experiment running in a petri dish, and at the end of the term, he gets his grade and he cleans out the petri dish. Maybe that's what's happening here on Earth, and that's why we don't remember. I personally don't want to see that happen. I like being alive. I like having a good life. I like, having friends, family, and enjoying the activities. I really think breathing is underrated. So I'd personally rather avoid that, Alan.
Well, okay. Well, Detlef, what's your take on it?
Yeah, well, I recently just saw a documentation about the Sahara. I think it's the biggest desert in the world, which is as big as the whole continental U.S. So it's an incredible landmass. And it's situated in the north to the nearly to the equator in Africa. Just for those who don't know where it looks, where it is situated. And this documentation said it's not a really long time ago, like something like between 5,000 and 15,000 years, that this area looked completely different. Because they are finding interesting archaeological pieces in the sand, in the desert, which are inexplicable, because there is no information about any major culture which could have erected such, buildings and so forth, structures. But they showed a map of a very, very rich country with lots of huge lakes, which you just cannot imagine who were located in this area. So how can such an area completely change within a lifespan of 15,000 or 5,000, even only 5,000 years? How can this happen? So there must have been some change, a real change, and a real climate change, not the scam which they're trying to sell to us with these CO2 stupidness. So there must have been some climate change at the time.
There was. We had here in the North American continent something called the Ice Age, and about 15,000 years ago, it started to melt. And that's the challenge I ask of these climate change folks. Climate change is just a new name for global warming. So I asked them, they can't come up with an answer. If here in Oregon, if you were sitting where I am sitting now, you would be in 15,000 years ago, you would have been under a 1 mile thick sheet of ice. 1 mile up. Think about that, 5,280 feet up. That's taller than any building we have. A sheet of ice that thick. And I asked them, how many SUVs and cow farts did it take to melt all that ice? Yeah. Of course, they can't answer. There's none. So it's about that time that you see in Africa, in Egypt, the erosion of the Sphinx. Dr. Schock, I can't remember his first name. His last name is Schock. Identified these fissures along the outside of the Sphinx as being erosion marks in the limestone. So it's about the same time the ice here was melting that it was raining more in Africa. So maybe that's where the Sahara got its water from. Maybe there's more water in the air circulating around the planet, causing it to be a lot greener. And 15,000 years ago, maybe that's how old the Sphinx and the pyramids are. And maybe that same civilization created, cultures and cities in the Sahara that's now buried in sand.
I'd like to jump in on that one, because my research, what I've come across is apparently that we didn't have our land wasn't covered in sand, the Sahara. We've had wars in the past with ancient civilizations. Remember, we've been here, this is the 6th time we're here. So we've had advanced technology from, we heard about the Vedas and the flying crafts and all that kind of stuff. So we've had, advanced technology in the past. And apparently, the book I'm rereading at the moment, I read in the 90s, was called The Only Planet of Choice. And obviously war out of kilter by 23.5 degrees. And that was caused by nuclear wars on the planet, along with the Sahara deserts. The deserts are there because of the wars, the bombs that went off. There was advanced technology. And even when you go back to the likes of Sodom and Gomorrah, when the Lot's wife turns around and has a look back and she turns to stone, I mean, that's just a metaphor for basically, I feel, is a nuclear explosion. So we've had that tech before. Even lifting stones, ancient stones, the ancients knew using vibrations and how to lift stones. The Native American Indians could make the weather change by using a rain dance, vibrating on a certain frequency. So the world has changed. And I'm not putting it down to, I know it has an ice age and stuff, of course, but we've had wars on this planet in the past, and that made a big difference on the planet. And that's why, this is where they're saying, this is what my research has found, that's why the Earth is out of balance, and that's why we have deserts, because of the wars in the past.
There's something to that, because earlier in the 2000s, I heard this report where in India, they uncovered this ancient city that was 800 times more radioactive than its surrounding area, indicating that it must have been hit with some kind of nuclear device. Mm. And, so you may be right there, because the ancient Indian Vedas talk about, gods that fly around in these vimana and shooting at each other and dropping bombs on Earth.
Yeah, that's it. And so we'd be very arrogant to believe that we are when people go, oh, we've got advanced technology. No, we've had well more advanced technology in the past, and we could do a lot more with ourselves on our own energy. As I say, lifting stones by using vibration. There was a guy, the guy in Florida. He died and brought the secret with him, and he was into ancient Egypt, and they were inquiring about how the pyramids were being built. And when I was in Italy on business, I was at dinner there's a group of us from different countries, and there's two Egyptian guys on the table. And I asked them, I said, how do you think the pyramids were built? And they said that they laid one block of stone and then covered it with sand and then pulled up the next block and then did the same thing. And I thought, that doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. They didn't have the technology, and you'd need thousands of people to do that. I just think they knew how to, like your man did in Florida. He worked out how he could raise these stones using vibration, and I believe he used two cones on both sides of the stone. And they used the vibration of frequencies to actually lift it and move them along. I believe we've had all this technology in the past. So what we have now is nothing compared to what they had in the past. I just think again, the reset happened and we're starting again.
Well, did you know that Juncker is the still current EU president? He talked in the parliament just recently that leaders of other planets would, watch us.
I did hear that statement.
Yeah.
Really? I missed that one.
Yeah. Well, Juncker is a junkie as well. It's the you could relate his name to that, because he's an alcoholic, right?
Yeah, I've seen the video of him stumbling around.
And he certainly is pretty stupid, but but I'm sure there is this is a message.
No, you're right. I remember hearing that statement that he did come out and say that as a very matter of fact thing.
Yeah.
That might be very true, because going back to what I was saying about the college experiment, a kid with a petri dish, we could be that to a more advanced civilization. Think about it, okay? If we accept the scientific idea that the universe is 14 billion years old, even if it was half that, let's say 7 billion years old, let's say, advanced civilizations were able to develop within the first billion. So that leaves 6 billion years of development from, let's say, our intelligence level, right? So 6 billion years from now, we will have a whole lot more, let's say we survive, a whole lot more advanced technologies. Well, a planet to us might be the same as a petri dish to a scientist. And then we, genetically manipulate everything there. And once we're done with their experiment, we spray the planet with some kind of insecticide, and everybody goes away. And then we bring in new genetic material and remanipulate it. And then it's like Sim City, right? Or Sim Earth. Once you get done with the game and you've built your society to its peak level, and you want to start over, so you just erase and start over again. And maybe that's what's happened. And I could see that being a possibility if civilizations had 6 billion years to develop.
Well, I'll tell you, funny you should say that, Matt. I interviewed a scientist on my show a few weeks ago called Anthony Peake, and we were actually talking about the quantum program, and we mentioned SimCity. And we both were saying the same thing, that we could be in some kind of advanced alien game, computer game. This quantum program that we're in, like the Matrix, and people, I know we perceive that we have free will. But I mean, I've done programming. I'm actually studying web development, programming at the moment. And even in programming, you have if then else statements. So free will could still be programmed into the program. So I'd have a range of choices depending on what situation I'm in, and I will pick one of them choices. So even though it's free will of the choice I pick, I'm limited to what options are available to me in this quantum program. And Anthony was very interesting. I mean, he's written like 10 books on the subject, and he's a phenomenal mind. But we were talking about this, about the fact we're in this kind of quantum program petri dish of some advanced alien system. And maybe we are in, it's like Avatar, where when we pass over and when we die, that we will just get off the table on some, machine somewhere like Avatar and think, okay, that was it. That was my experience there. Because spiritually, you hear people saying, I want to go home. So you don't feel that this is their home. They want to go home. They want to go back to where they originally come from. So obviously, there's something more to it. I'll pass that over to Michael, because this is kind of Michael's area as well. What's your take on it, Michael?
Yeah, well, I think you have to be careful not to fall prey to these Ahrimanic dystopies based only on materialism and physical body, because our spiritual development is such that if we go along with the ethical development of soul, body, and spirit, that we can, our thought, like the gods do, their thought becomes reality. So when God's thinking something, it is there, it becomes reality. So the forces of will, feeling, and thought are one. With us, we have a neutered thought life. Yeah, and the creation has done it rightfully so, because if every thought of every human person, given the present development, would become reality, it would be like, you can imagine how it would be. So basically, when I think about going back to Atlantis, that there was a group of elitist priests that were initiated in this truth of human development and the forces behind it, and they had developed certain techniques that they could handle it. But unfortunately, there were some priests that were abusing and misusing these techniques, and that's what happened. They used the creative forces of nature, the growing forces. For instance, the growing force of a tree, of a seed. They could use it and apply it, and they were making kind of a transportation system based on the usage of those energies. So when you do that, you have to have a moral development that you don't misuse or abuse these forces. Because if you do, and the negative forces are keen to tempt you to do so, that can create havoc. And what happened after the Atlantean catastrophe happened, that is, and it happened not only there in Atlantis, it happened in Lemuria also. It happened in all big steps of human past civilizations. And this city in India, I think it was I forgot the name, Dahoro Maha or something like this. It is actually now today's Pakistan. So those people also disappeared for some reason. But what is important when you talked about climate change and that kind of thing, or climate protection. I think we have to be in harmony with the elements, with the forces that create nature, and that when we develop ourselves, that we don't do it at their cost. And this environmental protection, that when we produce certain goods for daily life, that is in harmony with the whole, basically the beings that create the nature, these etheric beings which are there, that we are in harmony. And when we are developed enough in our consciousness, that we ask these spirits, how can we follow this objective and be in harmony with you, with the entire cosmos, with the entire structure of the cosmos? That should be our goal. How can we go and proceed on our path without harming anything and be even in harmony with it. So that is the thing which we have to observe. And if we do that, we have a very prospective future and a very thriving future ahead of us.
I want to go back to something that Alan was talking about. If you go to my website, nworder.com, on the front of it, scroll. You might have to scroll a little bit, but I have a whole section on the homepage devoted to the Mandela effect, and it's the idea where people remember things one way in their life. Millions of people can remember the same thing. For example, the movie Star Trek, at the end of the second episode, where Darth Vader tells Luke about who his father is. Most folks remember the line as, "Luke, I am your father." But in any format available, DVD, VHS, digital, now the line has changed to, "No, I am your father." That kind of oddity is called the Mandela effect. Why do we bring that up? It's like Alan was saying, we could be living in some kind of program, some kind of quantum computer. There was this episode where in Star Trek, The Next Generation, Professor Moriarty wanted to escape his holographic world. So what they did was put him and his partner into this big old memory box. It's about the size of a loaf of bread, but with enough memory in there that they could live entire lives without knowing they never left this little box. And we could be some computer program like Sim City or Sim Earth, and you get a little glitch like that, and you have this Mandela effect thing. So I think you would find it very interesting if you go to my website and dig into that. A great example is the song from Queen, "We Are the Champions of the World." Very end of the song used to end with, "We are the champions of the world," but now it does not. Of the world is left out for some reason, and everybody remembers it being there, and it's even there on the lyric sheet on the album, but on my vinyl record, it is missing, and I have a clip of that out there. So this idea that we can be reset, well, you reset a game after it's done, yeah, maybe that's how they're doing it, Alan.
Yeah, and another thing which I believe is incredible. I mean, if you look at all the politicians, ruling over an area like Germany or Italy or what have you, they seem to be out of mind. I mean, they are, isn't it? I mean, they're doing such a stupidness. I mean, with the decisions and even Merkel. Merkel is the prime example. She's actually there destroying the country which she's supposed to lead. She's just destroying everything, the economics, the corporations, except the globalists, but the small, profitable companies are being destroyed. The car industry is one of the prime industries in Germany. It's being, filletized. I mean, it's going to be broken down soon because they have to switch to electric cars now. I mean, nobody wants these electric cars. I mean, for whatever reason, we shouldn't discuss this because it's not worthwhile. So they will go down. They will just go down. They will not exist anymore in a few years. Can you imagine?
That's the same thing they're pushing here in the United States. It's craziness to you and I, but it's the plan. And the stupid people go along with it thinking, yes, it's great. Electric cars would be great. But how do you fire up the power plants to create the electricity with fossil fuels? Duh.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, they are brainwashed. They are puppets. They are robots or AIs. Maybe it's all artificial misintelligence. It's not intelligence. It's degenerated intelligence or whatever. I don't know what's happening. Have you followed the Merkel attacks when she started to shiver? You know, in front of media and with other high politicians and and she was shivering. She had to sit down in China for the visit. The Chinese guy stood up and she had to sit down, or she sat down. Can you imagine? I mean, how stupid is and they also the aeroplanes, the military flights which transporting Merkel and other politicians here in Germany, they are always out of order. They don't work. Even they have to use 2 or 3 planes in order to, one saves the other. Can you imagine? I mean, what's happening? I think I also, to a certain extent, Alan, I was always skeptical, but I think something is completely going in the wrong direction. I don't know what, but something is completely strange.
Oh, hello. There you go. I was wondering why I was jumping in there on the comment. I was wondering why my mic was muted.
Okay.
Somehow you got muted, huh? It happens. Strangely enough, it happens sometimes to us, right?
That's really weird. I don't know. I didn't mute myself, so I don't know why that muted. I can kind of clarify some of them points. Well, what we've been told, all right, what I've been told. Whether you want to take it and run with it or you don't believe it, that's fine. But basically, at the moment, what's happening on the planet is that we are being bombarded by a lot of energies. And every now and again, just the spikes of energy that are coming in. And it's affecting people in major ways. Now, people are feeling this. This is not, it's not a woo-woo new age thing. People are feeling the energies. What's happening as well is that there's a lot of people feeling sick and they're not handling with these energies very well. And people are going mad. There's a bit doolally as well, right? Now, the likes of Merkel and what's going on there is that the people at the top, we've been told, have been taken out. So what you have are all the middle management and the lower echelons of the hierarchy. They're struggling because they're followers, they're not leaders. And it's the same thing here. I was speaking to my last guest on last week was an ex-MEP politician, Cathy Sinnott. And she was in Brussels when the Lisbon Treaty was going through. And I said to her, what is your take on politicians? And she said, they are little boys who are being told what to do by Europe. But the problem is that even the people in Europe now are not getting any programs anymore from the people at the top because the people at the top have been taken out. So all they're doing is following the program that now is really non-existent. It doesn't really apply anymore. But because that's the only thing they have, they're just following that program. And it's not making sense to them because the person who gave it to them is not explaining to them what they have to do with the program. So they're just kind of winging it. And you're seeing, things happening, coming in. And as for Merkel shaking, I've seen that video twice. I've seen her shake for whatever reason. Maybe the energies again are affecting her. Maybe she just can't deal with it. And something's happening. But this is what we've been told. Now, if there's another reason for this, I'd like to know. Because I haven't heard any other reason bar the fact that the people at the top, certain people have been taken out. And times have changed since 2012 onwards. We have now, it's airtime. It's not their time. The Federation contract was up in 2012. That was a 100-year contract from 1912 to 2012. And it was supposed to then hand over to China for another 100 years. But it never did. So basically, from the January 1st, 2013, we have won. This is airtime now. And what you're seeing in the world is just people not being able to cope with the air changes that are taking place. I feel these energies as well. I have felt them. Sometimes you guys, I don't know if it's happened to you guys, but sometimes you could be somewhere and all of a sudden you feel really down, really upset and really down for some reason. And then within a few minutes it lifts and it's gone again.
Yeah.
You might be getting ringing in the ears. You might be having problems sleeping. You might be sleeping too much. You might be getting headaches. All these are called, if you want to call them, I don't want to call it the woo-woo stuff, but we call them ascension symptoms because the energies are hitting the planet and everybody's feeling them in some way. And people who are not, the whole idea now is to be vibrating on a particular frequency. Try and be more on the higher frequencies. And the people who are not on the higher frequencies, who are still stuck in the matrix, are having trouble coping. And I see that in my own family, believe it or not. I see people who are ill in my own family who just seem not to be able to cope with what's going on. But they don't know what it is because they're in the matrix. So, yeah. And there's no point me sitting down and talking to them because they wouldn't understand it, but they're just always having health problems.
Yeah, why don't you keep this thought, because we are heading up to a musical break. We are on top of the hour, and we will see each other after that. Some music from Poker Face, Survive. We all have, that's what we all want, don't we? Okay, see you in a few minutes, and back to this interesting discussions.
United we start.
I always like the music.
The New World Order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you. Join UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Hello, folks. You're listening to the United We Start Radio Roundtable on the 14th of September 2019. You have myself, Alan James. You have Matt Navarro. You have Michael and Detlev from Wake News Radio. Matt's from New World Order. And we're having a chat. This is the second part of the hour. And we're having a chat about what's happening on a global scale. What all this madness that's going on the planet and the energies hitting the planet. People are feeling it. And they're seeing things. They're seeing anomalies in around about the place where they're having they might take a photo of a dog or an animal or whatever, and you're seeing two versions of it. It's like there's this kind of one world eclipsing another world, and we've heard this. Dolores Cannon has talked about the 3D and the 5D. Detlev, what's your take on that?
You mean the 5G? Yeah, well, this is very, I don't know what to think about it. I mean, in Switzerland, there has been a decision taken to install 5G almost everywhere. So
not the 5G, the 3D and the 5D world. The whole idea.
So, I got this wrong then.
Yeah,
okay.
no, the whole idea. Dolores Cannon, she does the regressional hypnotherapy, and she did thousands of people. And basically, she was talking about the 3D and the 5D and the energies. And what we're seeing more and more, what people seem to be experiencing, is the fact that they're having certain anomalies and they're seeing things in the sky, or they're experiencing different things. It's like just two different worlds. This divide. I mean, I talked about the event Horizon, but I'm not so much talking about going to a black hole. But basically, there is this thing about the East Gate and West Gate. And if you go over to the YouTube channel Yellow Rose of Texas, she talks about this East Gate and West Gate. So we have this 26,000-year cycle, and halfway down that cycle is 13,000 years. And what happens is we will get pulled either into the east part or the west part of that. Now, if we go, I have to remember, if we go into the east, we're going to be raising up in vibration, going to a 5D plane. If we go into the west, we're staying on the 3D side of things. Now, some people believe that there's going to be a divide when we get to that event horizon, and there will be a split. And the people who go down the east side will be the people who are on a higher vibration, and the people who are obviously the cabal and people like that of a lower vibration will actually go back onto the west gate, going through the west gate, and stay where they are. Now, I don't know whether this is true or not. I'm just going by what I've researched and what I've been told. But if you think about it, I mean, if you just use it as a topic of discussion for the show, it's quite interesting to think. You know, we do talk about raising our energy, and there's a lot of talk with 5D. And Dolores Cannon is highly respected as a regressional hypnotherapist. And she's done a lot of research on this and a lot of documentation and papers on it. So it's something as a topic to discuss, because, you know, you never know, that could be going on.
Yeah, that's what I think. Sorry, I got this wrong because I didn't listen really to you. I think the whole operation, which is running via CERN, and also the spraying with the chemtrails and so forth. I mean, I watched this today in an incredible amount of heavy spraying over Basel here in Switzerland. I thought this is unreal. So they must have more reason to do this, and they're affecting everybody. I mean, the whole life on Earth by doing that.
Yes.
We are getting sick. The nature is just falling apart. There are so many trees dying here in the city area, you couldn't really imagine. And they're not doing anything about it, like additional watering or something like. I mean, they are also not stupid. They see the nature dying, and the so-called gardeners of the city and so forth. They should know, but there's something which is taking place which is unexplicable, and that's so I'm following the idea. I'm not saying I would know everything about this, but you remember, Alan and Matt, I don't know, but you remember, Alan, we had this chap from Australia in our show in United We Strike, I guess, and you also had him on OYM, saying that the evil cabal have been left to destroy themselves. And, when this is finished, we all will get into another dimension or whatever.
Well, he said, that was Joseph Chipolone from Australia. Right. About 5 different guests have said to me, and 5 different guests completely have said to me that the fact is that only between 9 and 12% of the people on the planet are organic. The rest are synthetic and clones. Now, why do we have police officers who have no empathy and just beat the hell out of people? And people are, you look at it and go, why the hell is he doing that? But if these are just clones or synthetic people, part of the program, the Matrix, the girl in the red dress, if these are people that are part of the program, then there's only a small percentage of us on the planet that are organic. Now, I've had about 5 guests from all different backgrounds have said the same thing to me, and they disagreed on the percentages, but it's between 9 and 12%. So if you take that on board, that there's only a certain amount on the planet who are organic, then does that technically mean that, and even the people who are organic,
can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Because I find this one hard to swallow, that only 9% of the people here on the planet are organic. So are you saying there's some factory somewhere spitting out clones and we don't know about this? Spitting out millions? Okay, so it would be somewhere in the neighborhood, if 9% of the world is organic, then I would guess somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 or 6.5% at least billion people were manufactured in some kind of factory and put on Earth like some kind of zombie? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about the fact that I'm not talking about there's a clone shop where all the clones are coming out.
Okay, what do you mean by synthetic people? Come on, because most people come through the vaginal canal.
They would be synthetic people would be people who are born without a soul.
So it's right? soulless people. Soulless.
Okay, maybe you can characterize that more in that sense. I can buy that a lot of people lack souls. They lack this kind of consciousness that you and I share. But when you say synthetic, I'm thinking like plastic versus a piece of wood.
Yeah. Now I would relate that to be soulless. People are born with no souls. And
okay, so that's quite different from saying somebody's synthetic.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean by that. By soul, they're born without a soul.
Okay.
So they're not genuine. They're synthetic. They're not genuine.
I would grant you that a lot of the politicians qualify there.
Yeah, if you think about the movie They Live in the 80s, and you have to, just talk about a lot of ETs are down here too, and they blend in. There are ETs that look human. So they could be here on the planet, and we could walk past them and not even know that they're ETs. So
that's a possibility.
I do think we have a big collective. Did you see that art? I don't know whether you guys seen it, Detlef or Matt or Michael, that a girl said, I seen an interview the other day where a girl said that she was at this high-ranking party in Russia, and was it a band? I think it was. No, it was band. The band said this. The band members in the band said this. They were playing at a high-ranking party in Russia, and the power went out, and most of the people in the actual event had glowing eyes, when the lights went out.
Oh,
and that freaked them out. Because they just thought, what the hell is that? Why do they have glowing eyes? And of course, the first thing I thought about was the movie.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie.
They live, you mean, huh?
They live, yeah.
Yeah, this film has been censored all over YouTube.
No way.
You cannot find a single full movie. You see clips or something, or maybe a minute something, but you don't find them anywhere.
I have the movie Detlef if you want it.
Yeah, I bought the movie myself, but you cannot. You don't have access on free access.
Hey, whenever I go outdoors and it's daytime, I've got sunglasses on, dudes.
Good weather over there.
Yeah. Amazing.
Well, one point I want to make is, we have to differentiate between being possessed, incantations, and, Steiner once says that there are certain beings, some spirits in the circumference between the moon and the earth, and they're not human, but they use the human body. Sometimes they incarnate into human bodies, and they have their cold intelligence and no soul. They're very intellectual, very, of course, they appear to be cold-hearted because they don't have a soul. And so they go into these realms of politicians. And politicians, basically, Steiner also says, all politics is a selection of evil, all in service of the cabal, basically. And
Sorry, go ahead.
And they're basically selection of evil, and they are there to have this infrastructure of evil rolling. And when you talk about incantation, that means basically another thing. I don't believe that it's a collective change of society, because everything is built like a house, like an architecture. So we have to expand our consciousness, and that requires, like in the old mystery school, our exercises. We have to gain, and we have to serve, basically, to become more sensitive for these spiritual issues. We have to undergo a training. Without training, there is no result. It doesn't come automatically, like an autopilot.
Yeah,
we have to work for it. We have to get more sensitive. We have to build our spiritual higher bodies so we can perceive the spiritual realities.
Yeah.
They're not given. They're not given like we have our organs, like hands and physical organs of the body. We have to really create them out of our free will. And then only, and that is conditional.
Totally agree with you on that. We have to work on it. We have to develop, and we have to grow, and we can't just expect it to happen. I've just posted up there, just to jump in there, the article on Skype. It says aliens revealed themselves in dark Russian nightclub, eyes lit up. I've just put the link on Skype there, lads, so you can have a look at it.
Can you put it? Sure. Can you put it in the UnitedWeStart chat room as well?
Okay, I'll just log in there. It just says footage from a party for the Russian elite has surfaced and been posted online. This YouTube video has been reposted by an American guy who is convinced that some of the guests are in fact either androids or extraterrestrials. While the band was playing, there was power outage, and the footage shows the eyes of 3 people glowing brightly in the dark. An interview with the band member said that the band left immediately after they were so freaked out. Now, I consider this an interesting concept. The eyes do shine brightly, and there has to be a reason for it. Androids or extraterrestrials do seem a little far-fetched, do not impossible. I'd like to think that there may be a simpler explanation, and don't personally believe that the world is teeming with incognito androids or aliens. Well, it depends on your approach. I believe at the end of the day, it depends where he's coming from and his knowledge and research.
It's not unreasonable to suspect that could be true. You know, it's easy because if you think, okay, back to my advanced civilization, 6 billion years more advanced than we are, to something more. You look at that and compare that to the stories we get told, like from Star Trek, where they get dressed in costume. They look just like the aliens that they're interacting with on these planets that they visit. It's not unreasonable to think that could be a possibility, and those could be the actual rulers of this world, and the ones at the very top, like the British Royal Crown, the Rothschilds, and the like, they interact with them through whatever means, and they follow their orders. And so it makes no sense for our mid-level politicians like Angela Merkel. She's just following her orders because that's who empowers her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I think have a look at that and make your own mind up. I would say, as Michael said, I think the important thing is that we need to work on our energies. We need to meditate. We need to raise our vibration. We need to raise our frequency to pick up and become more sensitive to the things that are going on around us. And the problem is that we've had these mystic schools where only various people were allowed to go in and share the esoteric knowledge that they trained people with. I do think we have more abilities, and Michael, you probably can come in on this. We have more abilities than what we realize, but that knowledge has been taken away from us.
Yeah, of course. And that's why they come out with all these chemtrails, what Detlef mentioned before, because there is actually what's going on at the moment. And Steiner also talks about the etheric returning of the Christ. He is there to help us from the etheric sphere. He incarnates in the so-called ether world. And the Cabal knows that. And they throw up all the dust and the dirt and the poison, what they can, in order so that the mankind becomes unaware of it. And that we know that these battles are going on in the background. We know that Ahriman especially, and the Asuras, and Solar is a sun demon. And Asuras are very destructive elements of evil. It's basically the threefold of evil. Lucifer on the one side, and Ahriman and the Asuras. Lucifer is the one that wants to escape in the spirit world and says, oh, this earth is a piece of shit. We are not interested. I'm only interested in the spiritual existence. Then the Christ impulse is to transform this physical world, to deal with it, not, to get the hands dirty, basically, to speak, and deal and transform it up to something higher. That is the Christ approach. And Ahriman said, we don't need the spiritual world. We simply reduce ourselves in the art of reductionism of the matter, and we're happy with that. Basically, that's the model today we live. We don't consider the spiritual world and only think in the terms between the birth and death, and that creates our entire horizon. Not forgetting that we are eternal human beings and that we have also access towards eternal consciousness, which we have lost, of course.
Mm.
I totally agree there. I agree with you 100%. We should spend time enlightening ourselves and getting in contact with our spiritual nature in our busy lives, because they make it busy, because we have to pay such high taxes that we have to work so many hours in a day to earn a living just to survive. We don't have the time to connect with our spiritual nature. And the fact that they're spraying us to make us ill doesn't help. And this is a historic event, or in history, we've seen occasions like this in the past, going back to that we've been here before, and there might be some extraterrestrial force engaging experiments on the planet. Bill Bramley wrote a book called The Gods of Eden, and I recommend it highly, where he documents where disease and famine occurred in history, where there would be associated spraying of stuff over the clouds of things that would develop over a certain location, and then people would fall ill, or sometimes it would manifest in the form of some weird mist, and then everyone in the village or the city would become ill. So spraying us with chemicals to dumb us down, make us sick, keep us unaware is not something new. Read the book, Gods of Eden, William Bramley.
The farmer in the field with the sheep. You know, I mean, we are the sheep. I suppose the movie Jupiter Ascending really hit the nail on the head regarding them using Earth as just like a cattle market. And, you know, every 100 people, the essence of 100 people was used for youth. So they would use Earth as a kind of cattle market for humans. And maybe that is the case. I mean, apparently the Anunnaki was supposed to, you know, genetically modify us from the Neanderthal man. So we could be used to for their needs. You know, if that's true, you know.
Well, if you look at Bob Lazar, a scientist, a physicist here in the United States, he was the one that reported that he went out to Area 51 and to a subsection called Area S4 and was responsible for reverse engineering the propulsion systems of these recovered alien craft. And he said he was read what they called the Blue Book, and it, you know, documented the history of the interactions of the aliens with the military or our government, our earthly governments, and he claimed to have read that the aliens have been genetically manipulated mankind for the last 250,000 years about 65 times to our current incarnation. This is what he read then. Now, if you doubt his word or his veracity, remember, it was Bob Lazar that told us that element 115 was used in the antimatter reactors to propel these ships, right? And everybody back in the day, back around 92, I guess, when he came out, said that, no, he's crazy. Element 115 doesn't exist. We can only create it in the laboratory by smashing atoms, and it only lasts for a couple seconds. Well, lo and behold, 10 years later, we have element 115. I don't know what they call it now. At first, I think they called it unpentium, but they changed the name again. But element 115 exists on the periodic table now. So before you say that what he said, you know, what he read is fiction, consider that element 115 now exists. So we could have been, according to the aliens, over the last 250,000 years, been genetically manipulated 65 times.
Well, I agree with you with Bob Lazar. I find his story quite fascinating and quite believable, you know, that he worked in S4. But we've had this technology since the 30s and 40s anyway. When Hitler, you know, the Vril and the Vril Society, and they were using them women to communicate with ETs. I mean, the Germans had this technology. They didn't have the technology, the weaponry for the technology, but they had the technology. I mean, even the guy Coanda, he invented a flying craft where they called the Coanda effect, where you suck the air from the top and then blow it out the bottom. So they did have these crafts in World War II, but they didn't have what I was told by when doing the research as well, that I was told they weren't given the armory, the laser weapons and stuff. They were just given the crafts. So that's why they couldn't use them in World War II, because they had no weapons. And
so that's kind of an interesting experiment, huh? Like say you and I take a helicopter, we give it to some Amazonian tribe that's never seen humans, right? And we give them a helicopter and watch what they do with them. That'd be a neat experiment.
Well, if you think about the Native American Indians, when they went over and met with the Native American Indians, and they gave the Native American Indians guns when they were using just bow and arrows, imagine their fascination, thinking, wow, this is so advanced, you know? So if you think of it on that principle, and of course, we, with the Western society and Western cultures, we always do that, don't we? We find some indigenous tribe that has been untouched for years, and as soon as we go in, they end up getting clothes, getting medicines, taking technology, and starting to get sick. And they've never had sicknesses in their whole life. And we always do it, you know. So we don't seem to have a prime directive ourselves, like supposed to be on Star Trek, if we find indigenous tribes, we should leave them alone, but we don't. We tend to go in and want to educate them and give them Christianity and everything else. And before you know it, they're all dropping off, for one thing or another.
True enough. So, this idea that they could be doing that to us is not too far-fetched anymore. I think more people are open to that idea. You look at how avant-garde Eric von Däniken was back in the day when he proposed that ancient aliens interacted with mankind, and he had all kinds of proof. That was so advanced, but now it's routine. You have in America we have the History Channel, and they have a whole series called Ancient Aliens, and then the whole premise of the show is to investigate alien involvement with mankind throughout history.
Yeah, I can't
more mainstream now.
You need to have some
What happened of Area 51? I wanted to just ask you that question in between.
Say again?
The storming of Area 51. What's going on over there?
I heard the promoter pulled out, so there wasn't going to be an event because there was not infrastructure to accommodate all those people, and he couldn't get the contractors in place that he needed. So I thought, last I heard, he pulled out. There's not going to be anything. And even if you did have that many people driving up to Area 51, you'd never get very far because, they have what I would think is private security out there. And they have some pretty, a lot of sensors out there that you'd never get past them. You wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And if they needed to use deadly force, I suppose they would.
I think that would be a stupid idea to go in there, and they have a right to use deadly force, apparently, by their laws. So they would probably open up on people trying to get in. Yeah,
that's not a very smart idea.
No, definitely not. Detlev, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think, I've been following Eric von Däniken, who lives in Switzerland, by the way. I've been to many of his speeches and so forth, and he had a whole park in Interlaken, which is about 1.5 hours away from here, where he showed us his ideas and theories, or to the public. I think there's a lot of of those things going on, and I'm sure I've seen lots of UFOs, and I think they exist, and there's other intelligences, and also what Matt was talking about, or everybody was talking about, that we live in a simulation game. Like I think that's also possible, because it's unexplainable. Even the issue, and I'm not of the same opinion as Michael is, or otherwise, vice versa. That there is the possibility of living on a planet which is round, which is like a balloon, or on a flat Earth. It could be also something completely different, which we cannot, as we could be in a box, something, so a game in a box. So it's very hard to say, because we cannot really follow all the information, and we don't have the access to prove one or the other theory in total. So I think, with whatever I get as an information or, confirmation every day in a new way, I think, nothing is really true. What we were taught as kids in school and so forth, or university or what have you. So everything is questionable, and you have to rely on yourself, on your soul, on your heart, and on your consciousness, and on your communication with God or with godly forces. That's the only thing you can really trust in. That's what I more and more do, or try to do. Relying on governmental information or science information is not a good thing to do. I mean, you can compare this information, and you can try to justify it or make sense of it. But I think they are lies. They are telling us lies all the time, in order to confuse us, in order to as Michael said, prevent us from ever getting awake to that stadium where you are able to find back into the next dimension, as Alan said. Sorry, I'm a little bit. I have a cold, so my nose is a little tight. My tongue is a little difficult.
That's okay. We won't stress you too much.
Yes, what do you think? That's my impression. I mean,
Okay, I suppose I totally agree. We have to cover 9/11 for the next few minutes anyway. But I think to round that up, I think history is his story. It's their story. It's not our story. It's their story. So it's history, his story, which is cabal as far as I'm concerned. History is not what we're told it is. It's completely different. But I do think that obviously we might as well mention 9/11 since this is the anniversary of 9/11 during the week. And, after 18 years on from 9/11, and yet we still are not seeing anybody being arrested. I mean, I think they did a survey in the States, Matt. Maybe you can back this up or confirm it. But 60% of people in America believe that 9/11 was an inside job. And if that is the case, why isn't anything done about it?
Well, I don't know that I've seen that poll, but I personally don't believe it was this way the narrative has been given us. Maybe more people are waking up to the fact that nothing's been done. What can you do? I mean, what are you going to do? They control everything. We're still in Afghanistan 18 years on. What are we fighting for there? Who are we fighting? We went over there under the pretext that some guys were hiding in a cave that orchestrated the whole event. And 18 years on, what are we doing here? But we don't ask those questions. And when Trump tries to get out of Afghanistan, pulls the troop, he's told, no, you can't do that. We have to still be there. Why? I can tell you why. To protect that pipeline and to make sure that the poppies keep blooming, because we have this massive problem around the world with heroin and opioids. Why? Because we've got Afghanistan pumping out all the opium. So changing it, after all these years, I don't see how you're going to prosecute anyone at this point.
Yeah,
they're in charge.
Yeah,
they're in charge.
And we all know about it, but this is why we have to look at what's happening with the planet. And we've all been doing this a long time. And although we all have kind of maybe woken people up directly and indirectly in our shows and the shows that we've done, I don't see from a psychological point of view, because that's my background, psychology. I don't see it'll take another 50 to 100 years, as far as I'm concerned, to get people even close to having an adult mind where we have humility and wisdom, and we start caring for each other and service to others. That's where we need to get to. But on a daily basis, I just don't see people getting it. I know we've come a long way in 10 years. Since I've started the radio show 10 years ago, I know I have seen the change in people, which is fine. But I still think we have such a long way to go.
I think the greatest change agent in our time is Donald Trump. They hate him so much because he is the manifestation of people waking up and rejecting the New World Order. They, up to the day before the election, they were saying Hillary's got it in the bag. So the fact that Donald Trump got elected is encouraging, and the fact that they can't throw enough mud at him that sticks is encouraging. But it's not going to last. If he gets reelected another term, it's only 4 more years. Then what? Then unless something really catastrophic happens,
Well,
here, no, this is the 911 story. I'm going to tie it in.
Yeah.
Unless something really catastrophic happens, like another 9/11, which is on a greater scale, the world is not going to get to the point where you were saying. There was a story on Fox News last night about this village in Canada, Newfoundland, Canada, where they were inundated with all these international flights that couldn't get to America because America at 9/11 had shut down its airspace. So this town of 9,000 people welcomed in 7,000 stranded travelers from 90 different countries. And they opened their homes, their schools, and their public facilities for these people so they could have a place to stay. And they would bring them food, blankets, clothing, pillows, out of the goodness of their heart. The kind of society that we all would like to be in, where we're all caring for each other and giving selflessly in occasions like that. And it was that horrific event that caused this outpouring of graciousness from this one town, and it is now embodied in a play that's on Broadway, and the person who sponsored that play, or one of the he's a corporate businessman, now has his company. Once a year, he gives his employees $100 to go give to someone or some charity or help someone in some community and come back and tell the company about it. So every year, he pays it forward like that based on the kindness of the people in that Newfoundland. And I can't remember the name of the town, but that's, to get to this point where you suggest we should be, Alan, might just take another catastrophic event like that, some massively more than 9/11.
Do you think it'd be global, Matt, though? Do you think we need a global something?
Yeah. Yes, because that way the whole world wakes up all at once. Otherwise, you just wake up one country and what then?
Yeah. Well, put it over to Michael. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah.
Oh, well, one thing I wanted to add on, because I wanted to mention out that higher developed spiritual beings, and that goes for good and evil beings, they have the possibility to create their own body, their own physical body. And some of the lower developed on both sides, they can create an astral projection into our physical world. So that should be taken into consideration. It's difficult to tell for a Mr. Normal to find out, is that a real being that with a physical body? Is it only a projection? Or, is it somebody that, some spirit that is bound like us, like human being, and that same state of development? It has basically a given spirit, a given body for a certain kind of extended period between birth and death. And that we shouldn't put in all one drawer. We have to really differentiate all these three things. That's being said. So what was the question concerning the 9/11 thing?
Well, just the fact that, do you think we need a global catastrophe to get people to wake up, to move forward into a better energy?
That would be, there is two ways always, two things, Steiner said World War I wouldn't have been necessary if people would have been waking up. So that was the necessity of events that pulls you, and it reflects a state of whether that is required or not. I mean, you can learn the positive way, you can learn the negative way, you can learn through pain or through happiness. So you decide which way you want to go. And same way with the collective human kind of consciousness. They can choose to learn it the hard way, the bloody way. They can also learn it on a more positive. That's their decision. It depends all on consciousness of people, on the collective sum up of the consciousness of the path they want to go. So it's either way.
See, what I experience here a lot is that I'm wondering also myself, why aren't so few people really speaking out, or some of them sort of know what's going on or seem to know, but they're not speaking up, and they're not doing anything to prevent this or to help their own children and families and so forth, that they are not being put under the train, sort of. Why don't they do it? And I think this reluctant consciousness, maybe we can call it like that, that is our problem, all of our problem. And I think there must be something in the air which is coming up. Maybe they want to try this Blue Beam project. Because I said it was Juncker from the EU presidency. He was mentioning that rulers of other planets are watching us. Maybe they are planning this the awakening story, because the evil, Michael, I think you agree, evil wants to get there as well, get to the final point, because they are sick of their evilness. So they want to get this ended soon. So there has to be a major catastrophe initiated, or like a screenplay, maybe
right.
And we would be happy to see that those guys who are not speaking up yet discover that this is not a true story, and finally find the initiative to do something, or they fall for it and they have to suffer.
Well, the evil elements, they work according to their nature. They have to be evil, They have not, like a lion. If he sees an antelope in the bushes, he says, "Okay, this antelope looks very nice. I don't eat it because anyhow I'm hungry, but I stay hungry now." Because they have this impulse to be evil, but we can transform the evil. Basically, that is what evil hopes for silently, that we are succumbing evil in our souls, in our body and spirit and mind, and then we can transform evil and make it and uplift it to a higher degree of development. That is basically the goal. But now, the way things are at the moment, presently speaking, evil has to be evil. You cannot ask the devil, say, "Oh, please, Mr. Devil, be a little less evil," because life would be much more easy to go. So that's not working. So basically, I think the evil has to be evil. They have their structures, they have their rules and regulations given by the Creator. They cannot go outside that box because there's no given rules. They cannot, as it is written in the Bible, no temptation can be stronger than you are forced to resist it. And so therefore, I think we are somewhat protected, but basically we're being tried. We're being put in a trial position where it goes up to the realm of our forces, whether we can resist or not.
Once you fall for it, then you're lost.
Yes, but the path can be also, even a black magician can go backwards on the path if he is really willing and his whole soul is willing to change his ways. Even that is theoretically possible, but it rarely happens like that, I must say.
Silence.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and all we can do is summarize and talk about it on the show like we do now, about what's happening in the world and where it's going to go. Things that we can deal with. I mean, we can look at the bigger picture, but I do think there's definitely changes taking place at the moment, and people are feeling it. And we're seeing, I don't know whether you guys seen the woman in America who lost a plot in McDonald's because they ran out of ice cream. And then the other woman in New York who went up and slashed the face of a 3-year-old child. And people are just losing the plot for no reason other than they're obviously not dealing with the energies. And it just seems to be escalating from there. So I just think for us and for any of the listeners that are listening to the show to stay in a place be an observer, and stay in a place of be neutral, be in the middle, 45, 55, and just be an observer and don't get involved, because these people are just losing the plot. It's best that you don't.
Yes, it could well be. Also, all the migrants.
When you say loosen the plot, what do you mean? I don't understand that.
Well, just people not being able to handle with the energies. As I say, your woman in McDonald's, and these are not isolated instances. There's loads of these all over the place, where she went into McDonald's and she asked for some ice cream or something, and the woman told her that the ice cream machine wasn't working and she won't be able to get any. And then she started picking up things and throwing things at the staff and just creating a riot in McDonald's.
Oh,
then,
okay.
As I say, this other lady who went and slashed the face of a 3-year-old child. And when the mother said something to her, she was coming over to slash the face of the other child that was there. And the mother and the father pushed it away. And the police went after her. That was in New York. Now, there's other cases where one guy was sitting at a bus stop and he was minding his own business. And this guy comes behind him with a machete and starts hitting him with the machete for no reason. So
I get you. People are just going nuts.
They're just going nuts, and obviously they're not dealing with what's going on. And we're going to see more of that, so we just have to be careful.
Yeah,
I want to
That's
remind everyone what Detlef was talking about, Project Bluebeam. If you don't know what that is, it is the idea that there is a plan that they would stage a alien invasion in order to scare the world into some direction that they want to scare us to, as like another 9/11. That's what Detlef was alluding to.
Yeah, I mean, that's Project Bluebeam is just advanced technology that they use, and they'll do voice to skull technology as well. So they might have a Project Bluebeam hologram of Jesus in the sky, and they'll use the voice to skull technology to think you will think that Jesus is talking to you, but it's just voice to skull technology.
Yeah,
maybe that's why maybe that's why they want to get all those 5Gs, 60,000 5G satellites in low Earth orbit.
Yeah,
maybe that's the reason.
That is one of we had Danny Searle on the show. I interviewed Danny, and he said that is one of the reasons. But by them putting in the 5G, they can use that not only as a weapon, but they could use it for Project Bluebeam as well.
Yeah, that's what I think. There are hints, there are also reported some UFOs flying in incredible speeds and, in incredible turns and so forth, which a regular plane could never do. So they are trying to, get us to this event, possibly.
Yes, and there's a lot of shows now in American TV where they're officially announcing it. There's pilots from the Navy. At least this one show I saw, pilots from the Navy coming onto this show saying, "Yes, we saw these anomalous craft. We don't know who pilots them, but they show the flight footage from the cameras of these craft, and so they're announcing it, preparing us. Perhaps I think we'd be advised to be aware, and if something like this occurs, question everything about it from the beginning."
I think also they're mentioning, guys, about the TR-3B. They actually have daylight footage of the TR-3B. If you go over to the third phase of the moon YouTube channel, they actually have a daylight photo of a TR-3B. I reckon they're going to be coming out and showing us that as well.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what a TR-3B is, it's a triangular shaped craft with lights on either point, black mostly, but it's fairly common. It's been fairly common to see since about the mid-90s, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, we've 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Detlef.
Why don't we tell our audience what we think we should do? I would start with don't stop waking people up. Stay steady in your thoughts. Don't get confused. Don't get sort of distracted from the truth, go fight for it, because it's the only way. If we, will be afraid or, fear is not the way to go. It doesn't help us. So we have to stay strict to our thoughts, to our consciousness, to our ideas. Otherwise, we will go under, and this is not helpful. Passing on.
Okay, I'll very, very quickly just say to people that I believe we are going to have something major happen on the planet. I don't know when, maybe 2020, I don't know. But I do believe that people need to start working on themselves and meditating, increasing their energy vibration, stay away from energy vampires, and stay in the center, be centered, be balanced, and protect yourself from negative energies, because you have to raise your frequency, because where we're going, if we are going to go to the East Gate, you need to have a high frequency, a high energy. So you need to work on yourself and deal with your shadow side, because you won't be able to go anywhere unless you deal with your shadow side.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is also that, I think Alan, you mentioned that lady in New York. We have to differentiate when you look at our own reflective of our soul thoughts and our actions, that sometimes these spirits that people don't realize how they operate, they whisper and shit in our brain, and we have to analyze, is that my thought that comes out? Sometimes you get funny thoughts, and then I think, well, did I think this, or where did it come from? What is that thought? And there we can see that there's these spirits are interfering in our intimate thought life, basically, and we have to find out who it is and what their intentions are, and then we have to basically like a pilot set the course. You say, okay, this thought, it's a piece of shit. We discard it, and this kind of thing we have to think: is it ethical? This thought, is it playing justice to my ethical and harmonious conduct between me and the universe? If it is, we can accept it. If it's not, we discard it. So we have to really take care and watch out of these brain shitters, these spirit whisperers in our head. And that lady, for instance, that she took it 1-to-1, she took it up, she didn't check it through her feelings, that it went right up in her will. So that's how these evil spirits operates. That's why I talked about incantation. First, they come to your thought life. If you don't resist them, they go in your feeling life. And if you don't resist, they go directly in your will life. And that's why what you said, Alan, is also very important, to create a meditative mindset where we try to be the pilot of our own lives and don't let us being remote controlled. And that's where the whole ball game is all about. Most people, or the people unaware people, are being remote controlled. And that is what the Kabbalah is working at. They want to remote control without even that we notice that we're being remote controlled. And so we have to become our own pilot and say nobody's changing the course but ourselves, Right. So that's what we have to learn, to be self-determined and self-aware, and follow our path without being distracted by left and right. And of course, we have to be nice to our fellow human beings. We have to think that they're all well-intended unless they prove different. And and also we have to find out whether we live in harmony with the earth, with the animals, with the plants, and with the rest of the cosmos. And if we have that in our mindset,
we're almost out of time, Mike.
Okay, then we should be good on our path.
Okay, I've got three points to make on how we proceed forward. Okay, first off, I think we should all be the light of love. Share your love, be the light in people's lives. Give to others, be generous, be kind, treat everyone with respect, and be polite to people. I don't see enough people being polite and today's society. Please and thank you really works. It goes a long way to, make our society a better place. So share the love, be the love, and pay it forward, okay? Plant seeds in people's minds. Don't be afraid to talk to others about, immigration, illegal immigration, or crazy politicians. Don't let them shut you down. Be respectful, but plant seeds in their mind so that maybe someday that seed will blossom, that idea will spark in them. And the last thing I want to mention is to be aware. Always be willing to question what you're being told. If you're being told that, building 7 can come down because it had an office fire for about an hour in there, and that'll make a whole building collapse, ask yourself why. And then, you might start getting answers that might help you make better decisions in life. And that's all I wanted to leave everyone with.
Cool.
Yeah, fine. So, let's go.
Okay, so until next month, folks, we've enjoyed being with you today, and I always take pleasure in talking with all of you gentlemen, and maybe we'll get one of that scientists you were talking about, living in a quantum universe, Alan. We can get them on next month. We'll be here in October, folks, the second Saturday of the month, 10 o'clock Pacific. Until then, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the new world order.
Right. Thank you very much. And we will be, playing some music, and there will be a rebroadcast right after. So we are looking to meet you then, as Matt said, on the second Saturday in October, and that is the 12th of October. So hopefully the world is still standing then. Okay, see you then, guys, and see you next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
United
Bye.
We Start. We explore the new world order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.
Songs as I write you this letter, of days past and days yet to come, and the message of freedom. The message of freedom. I stand at the edge of the pages of history and lessons unlearned. It feels like these pages are remaining unturned, but boys, it's no mystery. Children, I'm sorry to leave you this world in a state of disaster. It was given to me in a similar state, but I woke up so late in the game, now it's spiraling faster. 'Cause freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be a slave no more. Boys, listen close, for our souls may depend on the actions we take and the causes we choose to defend. So treat every man as a friend, and live your own lives in their divine processions, and transform your world with your selfless expressions. Reach out your hands, in time we'll understand. Children, one day I'll be gone, and you'll have to remember these words and be strong. song. You've known this all along. Well, freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be a slave no more. The message of freedom endured every tyrant or second-rate despot the world's ever known, and for one simple reason, the people have kept it alive. And with no end in sight to the level of violence, that men in high places will sink for to silence the will of the people. In you it must survive. But freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something more. As God is my witness, I'll be a slave no more. Well, freedom's the answer, so what is the question? Resist the advances of force and aggression, and leave to your children the promise of something